All right, let's dive into something pretty mysterious. Today we're tackling Enochian magic, a system that has a bit of a reputation, to say the least. And a lot of you have sent in some really interesting sources on this, including excerpts from Aaron Leitch's Enochian Magic and Mysticism. So clearly, this isn't just some passing curiosity. We're going deep on this one.
Yeah, and it's a system that's surrounded by, just so much misunderstanding. I mean, even the name Enochian magic, well, that's not exactly accurate. It simply means of or pertaining to the biblical prophet Enoch.
So we're starting off with a bit of a misnomer then. What's the real story? What are we actually dealing with here?
Well, the real Enochian tradition, it stems from the Book of Enoch.
Hmm.
That ancient text that tells the story of Enoch receiving these celestial tablets. Supposedly, they held all the secrets of the universe. And Dr. John Dee, the figure most associated with what we call Enochian magic, he believed he was receiving those same celestial tablets through, angelic communication.
Okay, hold on a sec, Dr. John Dee. Wasn't he like an advisor to Queen Elizabeth I? What's a royal advisor doing messing around with magic and angels?
Well, Dee was a true polymath. He's a scholar, a scientist, and even like an unofficial spy for the Queen. I mean, he was incredibly influential. He even coined the term British Empire.
Hmm.
But, he felt like he'd kind of exhausted human knowledge and turned to angelic communication for, well, deeper wisdom. Leitch actually describes it as a system of angelic scrying, essentially crystal gazing to communicate with angels.
So this wasn't just some like hobby for him. He was serious about this. But wasn't he also working with someone? Like a scryer?
Exactly, Edward Kelley.
Right.
He's a bit of an enigma, though. Some accounts, paint him as this gifted medium. Others, as kind of a con artist. He even worked for Emperor Rudolph II, who was a huge patron of alchemy and the occult. There's even a theory that Kelley was a double agent for the Catholic Church.
Wow, talk about a complicated character. But without Kelly, I mean, would we even know about Dee's Enochian system?
It's unlikely, yeah. Kelley was crucial. He was the one who gazed into the crystal and described the angels and symbols that Dee recorded. Their partnership, it was essential to the system's development.
Okay, so we've got Dee, this brilliant scholar, and Kelly, the mysterious scryer, both trying to access this, angelic knowledge. But how did they go about it? I mean, what did this magic actually look like in practice?
Well, Dee's system, it's best understood in three interconnected phases. The first phase, the Heptarchia, it was all about kind of setting the stage and contacting a specific hierarchy of angels.
So was it like a mystical summoning ritual? Were they chanting in a like dark candlelit room?
Not quite that dramatic, but they did use specific tools and furniture, like the holy table and the seven ensigns of creation, representing the seven planets and their archangels. It's interesting, some of these tools, they actually resemble those found in older grimoires, specifically Solomonic grimoires, which were essentially, magical textbooks popular at the time. It shows how Dee was kind of building upon these existing traditions.
Right, so they weren't just making this up as they went along. There was a real structure to it. But who are they actually trying to contact with all this elaborate setup?
Well, the main players in this phase, they were the 49 heptarchic angels. Think of them as, angelic specialists, each with their own expertise and area of influence. They were organized according to the seven planets
Yeah.
and the days of the week that they ruled.
Okay, so that's 49 angels, all neatly categorized and ready for a chat. But what were Dee and Kelly actually hoping to achieve by, contacting them? Was it just like a meet and greet?
Well, they were seeking knowledge and guidance, but they also believed these angels, they held power over things like, the weather, metals, even the fates of kings. They saw these angels as a way to tap into, well, real tangible power.
So it wasn't just about like esoteric knowledge. There were, potential practical applications here. But you mentioned three phases. So what comes after the Heptarchia? Do they like move up the angelic corporate ladder?
Exactly. Phase 2, it focuses on something called the Book of the Speech from God, or Logingeth. Dee believed it contained a new biblical doctrine, the true word of God, that would usher in the end times. But here's the catch. It was written entirely in angelical, the language of the angels.
Hold on. So they've got this book that's supposed to unlock the secrets of the universe, but it's written in a language no one understands. That's got to be frustrating. Did they just give up?
No, Dee was convinced he could decode it. He believed the key, it lay in the 48 angelical keys, or callings, that were revealed alongside the book. They saw these keys as a way to unlock the book's true meaning.
Angelical keys, a book of secrets. This is starting to sound like a Dan Brown novel. So what do they actually do with these keys?
Well, they embarked on this 49-day process. It was called Giboful. And it involved really intense ritual work and angelic communication. It was like a spiritual boot camp
Yeah.
designed to guide them through the 50 gates of understanding.
Okay, so Gebuffals is essentially a crash course in angelic language and divine wisdom. But why 49 days? Is there some significance to that number?
That's interesting, yeah. 49 days is also the period of time between Passover and Shavuot in the Jewish calendar. It's the time known as counting the Omer. It's a period of spiritual preparation and reflection. Dee, who is a devout Christian, might have been drawing on this existing tradition.
So even though he was, looking to angels for knowledge, he was still grounding his practice in existing religious frameworks. That's a fascinating blend of old and new. But what happened after those 49 days? Did they, crack the code?
Well, we don't know for sure. These journals, they don't reveal the specifics of what they actually experienced or learned. But we do know that this Gabel-Fell process was meant to prepare them for the final phase of the system, the watchtowers.
The Watchtowers. Now, that's a name that, pops up a lot in discussions about Enochian magic. What are they exactly?
The watchtowers, they're represented by the Great Table of the Earth, basically like a magical map of the world. Divided into 4 quarters, each watchtower was associated with a specific geographic region and governed by this, complex hierarchy of angels.
So it's not just about communicating with angels now, it's about potentially influencing events on a global scale. That's a pretty big step up from just, asking for good weather.
Yeah, and it's particularly interesting considering Dee's role as advisor to the Queen. Remember, he believed that England was destined for greatness. So the idea of a system that could potentially grant influence over nations, well, that would have been incredibly appealing to him.
Absolutely. So how did this, watchtower system work? What could Dee actually do with it?
Each watchtower, it contained this complex hierarchy of angels who were believed to hold power over specific domains: knowledge, medicine, transformation, even the ability to discover secrets. Dee developed a system for summoning these angels and, utilizing their powers.
It's like having a celestial task force on call, ready to assist with any problem. Need a cure for the plague? Summon the angels of medicine. Want to know what your enemies are plotting? Call up the angels of secrets.
It's certainly a potent idea. And Dee wasn't just theorizing. He meticulously recorded the names and powers of these watchtower angels, creating a system for accessing and working with them.
So we've gone from angelic scrying to decoding this divine language to potentially commanding legions of angels. It's a pretty wild ride, but we've been focusing on Dee and Kelley's, experiences. Did their work just die with them, or did it have a life, beyond the Elizabethan era?
That's a great question. And it leads us to the next chapter of this story, the transmission of Enochian magic from Dee and Kelley to the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn.
Ah, the Golden Dawn. Now that's a name I recognize. They were a pretty big deal in the world of occultism, right? But how did Dee and Kelley's work end up in their hands?
It's a tale of rediscovery and reinterpretation. After Dee's death, his journals and manuscripts, though they were scattered, some lost, some hidden away, it wasn't until the late 1800s that the founders of the Golden Dawn, these occultists who were, fascinated by Western esoteric traditions, rediscovered these hidden treasures.
So they were scholarly detectives, piecing together this lost magical system. What were they most interested in?
They were especially drawn to the Watchtower system. They saw it as this powerful tool for spiritual development and magical power. They believed they could access those same angelic forces that Dee and Kelley had contacted, centuries before.
But they were working with incomplete information, right? I mean, Dee's system was incredibly complex. Did they even have the whole picture?
Well, they had access to some of Dee's journals, but not all of them. And a key piece of their understanding came from this mysterious document called Book H. This book, it contained invocations for the Watchtower angels, but it presented a slightly different version of the Great Table, one that had been reformed by Edward Kelley.
Reformed? What does that even mean? Did Kelley just decide to, rearrange the furniture in Dee's magical house?
Well, it's actually a rather bizarre story. It involves this strange episode of, well, let's just say it involves some unusual marital arrangements and a divinely inspired rearrangement of the watchtowers.
Wait, hold on. Unusual marital arrangements. Divinely inspired. Now you've really piqued my curiosity. What exactly happened?
Well, before we dive into that particular rabbit hole, it's important to understand the impact that this reformed table had on the Golden Dawn's understanding of Enochian magic. They essentially inherited a slightly altered version of the system, unaware of its rather unique backstory.
Okay, yeah, I can see how that could lead to some interesting interpretations. But don't leave me hanging. I need to hear about this reformed watchtower system and the story behind it. This is definitely one of those truth is stranger than fiction moments.
All right, you asked for it. So picture this. Dee and Kelley, right? They're at the height of their magical partnership, working on these, angelic communications. When suddenly Kelley just drops this bombshell, he says that the angel Madimi, she has commended them to share their
Wait,
wives.
whoa, hold on a minute. Share their wives? As in, like, swap. This is getting a little too personal, don't you think, for a history of magic discussion? And who is this angel Madimi anyway? Why is she, making marital arrangements?
Well, Madimi, she is one of the family of light angels, pretty powerful entities. You can actually find their names on Dee's seal of the true God.
Nice.
As for why she'd propose such a thing, well, that's one of the great Enochian mysteries. I mean, even Dee himself, he records in his journals that he and the women were, well, quite upset by the suggestion, to say the least.
Yeah, I can only imagine. This had to be absolutely scandalous, even back then. But you mentioned that Kelly received that reformed table, during this same period. Is there a connection there?
There is, actually. While they were grappling with this whole wife-swapping dilemma, Kelley claimed to have received a message. It instructed him to join Enoch his tables, which seemed to refer to the watchtowers. He was told to kind of consider the entire great table as a whole, you see, rather than focusing on individual watchtowers.
So like a divine upgrade to his, magical worldview. But how did that actually lead to the reform table? What was Kelly supposed to join exactly?
Well, along with that message came a coded message, right?
Yeah.
The great table itself, with each square numbered, was the key to actually decoding it.
So it was like a mystical cipher. You had to match the code to the table to like unlock the message.
Exactly. But there was a problem. Using the original Great Table, the code just yielded gibberish. Kelley then claimed that he was visited by the angel Raphael, and Raphael presented him with a new arrangement of the watchtowers, you see, within the Great Table.
Ah. So this is the origin of the reform table. It was meant to like make the coded message legible. So what did the message actually say then?
Believe it or not, it was presented as a message from God himself. Yeah. And it was, well, granting permission for the wife sharing to take place. I mean, he recorded it all in his journals, even expressing great rejoicing at the prospect.
Okay, so this reform table, which, became so important to the Golden Dawn later on, was born out of this, shall we say, unique social experiment.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. And it does kind of raise some questions about, what the angels were really up to. Were they truly divine beings or something else entirely?
Yeah, that's a discussion for another time, perhaps. But what's fascinating is that the Golden Dawn, centuries later, they adopted this reformed table as like the correct version, completely unaware of its origins.
Precisely. They saw it as the solution to a problem they didn't even know existed. It really highlights the importance of understanding, the historical context of these magical systems. But the Golden Dawn didn't just, inherit Dee's system wholesale. They added their own interpretations, their own innovations. They drew on other occult traditions like Kabbalah.
So it was more of an evolution than a direct transmission, which makes sense, right? Magic isn't static. It adapts, it changes over time.
Exactly. It's a living tradition.
Yeah.
And speaking of living traditions, we've talked about the tools, the angels, the tables, but what about the language itself?
Yeah.
Angelical or Enochian, as it's sometimes called. It's one of the most intriguing aspects of this whole system.
It's definitely one of the things that people always bring up when they talk about Enochian magic. What do we actually know about this language?
Well, Dee and Kelley claim they received it directly from the angels.
Right.
And it's not just some random collection of sounds. It has its own grammar, its own syntax, even a unique alphabet.
So it's like a fully formed language, not just like mystical gibberish. That's pretty incredible, if it's true, of course.
It is, and it sparked a lot of debate among scholars. Was it a genuine angelic language or something that Dee and Kelley constructed perhaps subconsciously? The mystery remains.
A linguistic mystery within a magical mystery. But regardless of its origins, angelical plays a key role in the practice of Enochian magic.
Absolutely. It's used in the keys, those calls to the angels. It's found in the Book of the Speech from God. Even on some of the magical tools. Dee and Kelley, they believed that using this language, it kind of connected them to a deeper level of power.
So it's not just about the words themselves, but the vibrational energy they carry, the connection to like another realm. It's like a sonic key to unlock hidden doors.
That's a great way to think about it. And this concept of language as a source of power, it's not unique to Enochian magic. It's found in many different traditions.
It makes you wonder what secrets might be hidden within this angelical language, what knowledge it might uh, unlock.
And that's what makes this so fascinating, right? I mean, we're still exploring this language today. Scholars have been deciphering Dee's notes, reconstructing the pronunciation, analyzing the grammar. It's like an ongoing archaeological dig into the heart of magic.
Wow, that's amazing. So from the Elizabethan era to the Golden Dawn to, modern scholars, Enochian magic and the angelical language, they continue to like capture our imaginations. It's a system that seems to transcend time. But we've covered a lot of ground here. What does this all mean for someone, encountering Enochian magic today? Why should they care about the system in the 21st century?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, on one hand, it does feel very much like a product of its time, right? Elizabethan England, royal courts, all that weirdness with the wife swapping.
Yeah, it's a wild story, but there's also something, I don't know, kind of timeless about it. This idea of like reaching beyond the ordinary, trying to connect with something bigger than yourself.
Absolutely. I think there are a few reasons why Enochian magic still kind of resonates with people today. First off, it offers this like fascinating glimpse into the history of Western occultism. It shows us how these traditions evolved, how they blended with religion and science, and how they reflected, I guess, the beliefs and anxieties of their time.
It's like a historical puzzle, but the pieces are made of angels and ciphers and strange rituals.
Exactly. But beyond the historical significance, I think Enochian magic provides this framework for personal exploration. The rituals, the symbolism, even the angelical language itself, it all points back to this idea of connecting with something larger than ourselves, tapping into like a hidden potential within us.
So it's not just about, summoning angels or wielding magical power. It's about uh, self-discovery, maybe even, spiritual growth.
Exactly. And that's something that resonates with people across cultures and time periods. This desire to connect with the divine, to understand our place in the universe. I mean, it's a universal human impulse.
Yeah, and in a world that can feel increasingly, materialistic and disconnected from the sacred, Enochian magic offers a way to kind of re-enchant our lives, to tap into that sense of wonder and mystery that we often lose sight of.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of its appeal. It's this reminder that there's more to reality than what we can see and touch, and that we have the potential to access those hidden dimensions, through practice, through study, and a willingness to push the boundaries of what we think we know.
So it's not just for like, people who want to cast spells and summon angels. It's for anyone seeking a deeper understanding of themselves and the universe.
Absolutely. And for our listener, if this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, don't stop here. Delve into those sources you sent. Explore the works of modern Enochian practitioners. Maybe even try, experimenting with the system yourself.
Exactly. You never know what you might discover. But before we wrap things up, I got to ask, Dee was convinced that this Book of the Speech from God, it signaled the end times. We've talked about the angels, the rituals, the potential for power. But what about this apocalyptic aspect? I mean, is that something we should be worried about?
Well, that's a question that's been debated for centuries. I mean, was Dee's vision of the end times accurate? Or was it just, a product of his time and his anxieties? It's hard to say for sure.
It definitely adds another layer to this whole system. But whether we're facing the apocalypse or simply navigating the complexities of modern life, I think Dee and Kelley's work offers a valuable lesson. Never stop seeking knowledge, never stop pushing the boundaries of what you think is possible, and never underestimate the power of the human spirit to connect with the divine, even in the most unexpected ways.
Beautifully put. And for our listener, wherever your journey takes you, may be filled with wonder, with discovery, and perhaps even a little bit of magic.
Until next time, keep exploring.